Hey everyone, Justin Gosman here, host of Blue Suede Reviews, and I wanted to do something kind of interesting or different for Elvis Week 2016. Earlier this year, back in the spring, Sony Legacy put out the RCA Albums Collection. And what it is that it's a collection of almost all of the albums released during Elvis's lifetime from 1956 to 1977. And it's, I had kind of hesitated on buying it. It's fairly hefty price-wise. Not as much as the Complete Masters was that they put out a few years ago, but definitely up there. And I have all of the content anyway, so I was kind of going, well, do I really want to? Do I need it? But I finally decided to take the dive and go ahead and get it, just for the sake of just having something cool in my collection that really represents the music as best as possible. And it really has been an eye-opening experience, an ear-opening experience, because the way that they've done it is they've put all the albums in their original configurations. So, for example, usually you would think that disc 1, track 1 would start with either My Happiness or That's Alright Mama. But no, it actually starts in 1956, and the Sun Record stuff doesn't show up till later. Some of it doesn't even appear until the final 3 CDs, which are all rarities, demos, home recordings, things like that. So basically what I want to do is I want to go through each of these albums. I sat down and listened to all of them over the last couple weeks, and it kind of retrained my mind as to how to think about these albums, because they have always been presented to me with a number of bonus tracks or in different configurations. A lot of the live albums had new songs edited in, and it was nice just to sit down and kind of experience these albums basically the way people did when it came out. And I've never been privy to that because I grew up in, the later part of the 20th century and the early part of the 21st century. So I just want to kind of take you through with all these albums and tell you kind of my thoughts on those. And these won't be long reviews like I would do with a movie. They're just kind of going to be my thoughts. I won't necessarily go track by track, but I just want to sit down and take a look at the music for Elvis Week. So there's no better place to start than Elvis Presley, 1956. The neat thing about these albums is that they've recreated all of the cover art, front and back, from the original albums, including the spine. I would say 99%, except for on the bottom they have a little number that tells you what order they came in, and it has been helpful reordering these things, because I'm pretty close to having them memorized in order, but not quite. And they've also recreated the disc art for side 1 of whichever album it was that they're creating. But Elvis Presley, 1956. This album I've heard many times over. All of the content, most of it I've heard on a number of compilations, including the 50s Masters box set, which came out in 1992. I didn't get my copy until the early 2000s, when I kind of first was becoming an Elvis fan. But hearing it in its original configuration has really, it really starts this album collection off with a bang, because it is kind of a big bang of rock and roll. Even if it's not, quite, there are singles that gets left off of it that are included in like the Legacy edition, like Heartbreak Hotel, I Was the One. Things that you would consider would typically be on Elvis's albums were not really on the albums, because that's the way the music industry worked at the time. You had your singles and you had your albums. They were two separate things, and it wasn't until later that it really became a thing in rock and roll to have a theme or a concept or a sense of cohesion. So that actually carries over in the track list of Elvis Presley. It's sort of a hodgepodge. 6 of the 12 songs that are on this album are actually leftovers from Sun. I Love You Because, Just Because, Trying to Get to You, I'll Never Let You Go, and Blue Moon are all from Sun Records. But the people who would have bought this in 1956 wouldn't have known that. But one thing that's cool about Elvis Presley is that even though it's just a collection of random recordings from both Sun and his first sessions in New York with RCA in 1956, it's really the only time, I won't say the only time, but it's one of the few times in his career where there was no one there to push records. There were no A&R men. There was no one to tell him what to record. These were all songs of his choosing. I mean, I Got a Woman and Blue Suede Reviews were songs that I Got a Woman he had been he'd been singing for quite some time on stage at the Louisiana Hayride and around the South. And Blue Suede Shoes he would have gotten from Carl Perkins, who was his contemporary at Sun. And of the other two songs that are, the other 3 songs that are not Sun songs, there's Tutti Frutti, which Little Richard originally did, One-Sided Love Affair, and I'm Gonna Sit Right Down and Cry Over You, and Money Honey. I'm Gonna Sit Right Down and Cry Over You is actually really interesting. It was recorded by an artist named Roy Hamilton originally, or at least that's where Elvis got it from. And I've got a lot to say about Roy Hamilton, but that's another subject altogether. But as far as Elvis Presley is concerned, 1956, you really couldn't go wrong with this album. It is Elvis in his peak as far as rock and roll is concerned. These are seminal rock and roll recordings. You can put this up against any other rock and roll album out there, and it still stands up, even despite it being sort of a hodgepodge and tonally all over the place, because it jumps from ballad to rocker so quickly. What can I say about this album that hasn't been said before? It's great. So that's really all I got to say on this one. We'll see you on the next one.